Becky and Mundy. Radio sucks. That's why, when I'm driving, I like to go over my material. And I would probably look like a crazy person doing so, you know, making hand gestures, and going on and on in the car with nobody else. Except I went and got one of those Bluetooth earpieces, so that other drivers, instead of thinking that I've lost my mind, would just assume that I'm a douchebag. And for the most part, the feeling's mutual. Because there's something about driving that just makes you mad. I don't know what it is about piloting a motor vehicle from point A to point B that awakens the inner anger monster in otherwise peaceful people. Have you ever seen Gandhi or the Dalai Lama or John Lennon driving? No. The reason? Good publicists. It would ruin their images to be seen flipping off a bus full of children while making an illegal lane change. Plus, at least two of those guys are dead, and that helps. I mean, who would want to do the Photoshop anyways? You'd have the Beatles crossing Abbey Road, and John's about to door check Paul with his Mini Cooper. Maybe some of the road rage blame falls on those who come up with the names for the makes and models of our vehicles. Because if you think about it, they're not that far from swears, right? Nobody's getting behind that? What an unbelievable bunch of Astros. Ford me, Ford you Mazda Firebirds. No good Lincoln Scion of Buick. A lot of stuff out there that'll get you angry, but nothing chaps my taint quite as egregiously as the majority of sport utility vehicle drivers. It's not even an environmental thing. I mean, I don't have to defend the environment. Mother Earth is a big girl. Huge even. She can look out for herself. For instance, scientists now believe that dinosaurs were killed by global warming caused by their own flatulence. See? Little old environment turned around and became the first Miss Manners, wiped them all out because they wouldn't politely hold their farts. But I digress. I don't want to talk about suicidal dinosaur anuses. The giant assholes I want to talk about drive SUVs. And when they need to stop in an intersection, they pull up as far as they possibly can. They go past the stop line and into the crosswalk, making it impossible to see intersecting traffic around them. Now, not only is this a douche move, but it forces you to go even further than they did so that you don't die trying to make a right turn. Thus, making you an accessory. A douche accessory. Now, as much as I like to throw the word around, I'm not really that familiar with douching, never having been a party to one. Do they even make douche accessories? Like a nozzle with adjustable settings, like a shower head? Oh, I am way past month or mileage on this one. Looks like I'm gonna have to set it to sandblast. It kind of makes me uncomfortable even talking about it. I now know how the junior high school kid feels when he finds out his next wrestling opponent is going to be female. I mean, I'm all for equality of the sexes, but that's just not right. You take a bunch of kids in the chaotic prime of their pubescence, they're all 5 foot of hormones wrapped in unitards. They could probably all just convince themselves there's nothing homoerotic about their sport. And then they're faced with the horror of getting down on a mat in front of a group of strangers and getting manhandled by girl parts. All the while trying to hold on to the most innocent memory from childhood until the whistle blows. Because let's face it, there are just some things you can't hide well in spandex. Wrestling. Anybody else hear the news story about the kid who's dominating high school wrestling? Those of you who are at all familiar with sports journalism will notice that I didn't call him a phenom. That's because phenom isn't a word. It's an abbrev that makes you sound like an imbus. Anyways, this kid is dominating high school wrestling, and he's doing it with only half the standard arm and leg proportions. What I mean by that is where you and I have elbows and knees that proceed into the rest of our arms and legs. He has nubbins. And he's going against full-bodied kids. Now, by the way, this joke is one of the only times you'll hear the term full-bodied kids, besides maybe a NAMBLA convention. So he's wrestling against these full-bodied kids and he's destroying them. That's incredible, right? Not really. Think about it. A wrestler of comparable musculature could throw up every meal for a month and never hope to drop weight classes like that. After the weigh-in, it would be the skinniest bunch of kids versus this super strong torso that's immune to all the arm and leg locks they've been practicing. I mean, good for the kid overcoming his birth defects, but excelling in a weight-based leverage contest just isn't that impressive for a guy like that. Now, if he was excelling in, say, basketball or driving, apparently there are those among us who would like to see the blind out driving. And I say this because I've come across, in the middle of a parking lot, far from any residential neighborhood, and nowhere near a bank, an ATM that I swear to you had Braille on the buttons. Now, exactly what kind of sadistic social experiment is going on here? Talk about adding insult to life-threatening injury. Because after beating the insurmountable odds of driving to this parking lot without killing themselves or enough other people to elicit a complaint to the authorities, they've managed to find, of all things, an ATM. And I might add, without rendering it unusable during impact. Hallelujah. This ATM has Braille buttons. But then they find this ATM will not speak to them. The menu and subsequent instructions appear on a screen that mocks them silently from the void of existence. Their only hope and withdrawal lies in randomly choosing the correct sequence of pressing yes, no, cancel, and the numbers 0 through 9. But seeing isn't just important, nay, integral in driving, it's also educational. You notice a lot of things when you're driving, particularly the back of other vehicles. And I've noticed one thing recently that I think is a really bad idea. Some of you might have noticed that people have started putting stick figure stickers that represent themselves, their kids, and all the pets in the family on the back of the family vehicle window. Well, whether or not you find this to be tacky, I think we can all agree it's just irresponsible to park a checklist for child predators in the driveway. It's like when restaurants post the menu in the front window. It appears that Johnson's are offering full-bodied kids. And there are some dark places that this fad hasn't gone that it can. Like the serial drunk driver who has stickers of families down the side of his beat-up car with lines through them like a World War I fighter pilot. Or the modern businesswoman who has just a lone sticker of an empowered female like Rosie the Riveter, followed by fetus-holding jar stickers to represent her many abortions. There's another thing I noticed, which is on the back of the local fire trucks. It's a sign that reads, "Stay back 343 feet." Strange, right? I mean, especially since the only time I'm close enough to read this sign is during regular non-emergency traffic situations. you know, so it's confusing. I mean, they don't really expect you to drive like that, do they? I'm pretty sure the rule is a car length per 10 miles per hour. And I drive a tiny hatchback, so I'd have to be going Mach something with a sonic boom bouncing through my wake that's filled with broken glass, joggers, and smart cars rolling like the crocodiles at the end of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom to be going fast enough to need 343 feet to stop. And even if 343 didn't seem a little on the random side, the quotation marks? I'm a big fan of sarcasm. It's one of my favorite languages. But I do not find it appropriate for life and death emergency situations. I mean, what's next? Ambulances that play the entertainer like an ice cream truck? Or police cruisers that read alternative city revenue solutions along the side? Well, so I looked it up online, and it turns out that 343 was the number of firefighters that died in 9/11. And the signs are a show of solidarity, albeit a strange one, by the local firefighters. And I can see the looks of concern. You're thinking, dear Lord, this guy has already made fun of a kid with no arms and legs. Now he's going to make 9/11 jokes. Well, I'm not going to do that now. Because I sort of kind of already did that. And a lot of you laughed at me. Terrorists. Why is it that terrorists never attack the government buildings that ask for it on a regular basis? Like the DMV. It's about impossible to go in there and subject yourself to their special brand of abuse without having violent and seditious fantasies that make a Grand Theft Auto video game look like a Pixar movie. And that's pretty much par for the course anytime your vehicle and the government are both involved. Like, I recently had to register a car with out-of-state plates. It was like trying to enroll in a state university with a campus the size of a city. They sent me on this bureaucratic nightmare scavenger hunt all over town. It was a journey so epic. There was an elf, a dwarf, a wizard, and in the end, I had to throw an entire business day's worth of plans into the fires of Mount Doom as I sat waiting to sit in front of her so I could give her my money. Only the government would make it an ordeal to pay them. And the biggest shame of the whole spectacle was that when I finally achieved the award of a license plate, I was too proud of it to want to put it on the back of our car. I wanted to take it home, put it up on the wall, proudly displayed between my wife's 2 college diplomas, where my college diploma would be. You know, maybe if I had just a little more drive.